Hi there, SharePoint enthusiasts, Dennis here. Today we're gonna talk about the ad hoc users in SharePoint Online, also known as SharePoint OTP users or SharePoint-only users, what they are, how they are different from guest users, and how to find them in your tenant. A while back I was doing a security review for a client, and we discovered hundreds of external users who had access to SharePoint files, but none of them showed up in Entra ID. The client had no idea these users existed. Turns out, they were all ad hoc external users. Let me explain what's going on and how to stay on top of it. Here is the thing most admins don't realize. The way you share content in SharePoint determines what type of external users get created. When you share a site with an external person, a guest account gets provisioned in your Entra ID. This person needs a Microsoft or organizational account to sign in. You can see them in your directory, manage them, apply conditional access policies, the whole deal. But when you share a file or a folder with an external person, something different happens. SharePoint creates what's called an ad hoc external recipient, or sometimes called SharePoint OTP user. This person doesn't get an account in Entra ID. They only exist inside SharePoint, tucked away in a hidden user list. They verify their identity using a one-time password sent to their email. So you end up with two very different types of external users, and most admins only know about one of them. Microsoft did fix it in 2023, but only for the new tenants. Let's break down the key differences. Guest users live in your Entra ID directory, sign in with their Microsoft account, can be members of Teams or Microsoft 365 groups, can edit files in Word, Excel, PowerPoint online, and are covered by conditional access policies. Ad hoc users do not exist in Entra ID, authenticate with a time-sensitive, single-use passcode, can only see the specific files or folders shared with them, cannot join teams or groups, and cannot edit in-office apps. They can only view or download. Both types are audited, so you do have a trail, but the visibility gap is a real problem if you're trying to do a proper access review. Now, Microsoft does recommend enabling SharePoint and OneDrive integration with Entra B2B. When you turn this on, even file-level sharing will create a guest account in Entra ID instead of an ad hoc user. This gives you much better visibility and control. The good news is that the change itself only takes a few minutes, and it's easy to roll back if you don't like how it works. However, and this is important, there is a disruption to be aware of. After you enable Entra B2B integration, external users who previously accessed your content using one-time passcodes will run into access issues. They'll see an error that says, "This organization has updated its guest access settings." Their existing shared links will stop working. To restore access, your data owners will need to reshare those files and folders with the affected external users. So it's not a flip the switch and forget kind of a change. There's a re-invitation step involved. Now, external users will still authenticate using a one-time passcode. That experience doesn't change for them. The difference is that the passcode will now be sent from Entra ID instead of SharePoint, and a guest account will be created in your directory. One option is to preemptively create guest accounts in Entra ID for your existing ad hoc users before you enable the feature, without sending them an invitation. This way, when the switch is flipped, those users already have a guest object in your directory and can avoid the access disruption entirely. The other approach, and honestly this might be the better one, is to let the data owners explicitly re-invite their external users after the change. That way, you're not blindly converting every ad hoc user into a guest account. Some of those sharing relationships may be stale or no longer needed. And this gives your organization a chance to clean things up. If you haven't enabled this yet, I'd strongly recommend looking into it, and I'll drop a link in the description. So, how do you actually find these hidden users? The best approach is to use a PnP PowerShell script to find all ad hoc users for a specific site. Once you get a report on all ad hoc users, you can share it with the site owners, telling them to prepare for a potential disruption on a specific date. And that's the deal with ad hoc users in SharePoint Online. They're easy to miss, but important to track, especially if you care about security and compliance. To recap, site sharing creates guest accounts in Entra ID, file sharing creates ad hoc users, also known as SharePoint OTP users or one-time passcode users, that only live in SharePoint, and you can find them by running a PowerShell PnP script. Consider enabling the Entra B2B integration to avoid creating ad hoc users going forward. Just be prepared for the re-invitation step and plan your migration strategy. And if you haven't done an external user audit recently, now might be a good time.